Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a English saddle for Schleich horses, and we'll begin with the materials you'll need are a thin piece of cardboard like cereal box cardboard, 2 or 3 millimeter ribbon, 4 6 millimeter jump rings, 20 gauge wire, sharp scissors, pliers, wire cutters, felts. I'm using 3 different ones, a marker, pen, pencil of any color, and last but not least, a hot glue gun and hot glue stick. So the first thing you're going to do is take your marker and your little piece of cardboard and you're going to draw out the shape of the saddle seat. And this is what that shape should look like. Now you're going to cut it out, and I like to use an old pair of dull scissors when I do this because the cardboard will dull your sharp scissors. Next, take your saddle tree, is what this is going to be, and bend the cardboard in several places. That way it curves up like the seat of a saddle. And it should look like this. Now you're going to glue the front side of your saddle tree to a piece of felt, and I always start with just putting glue on the bottom half for just a start, and you basically just stick it onto your felt, making sure to leave room all the way around. So hopefully that made sense, but it is important, you'll see in a moment. And just press it together with your fingers, that way the glue will take a good hold. And I always cut it out, that way I don't have this whole big piece of felt to deal with. So I just kind of roughly cut out the felt in roughly the shape of the saddle tree. Once we get to this point, I always glue down the top half and press it together. Once I've glued the felt onto the front of the saddle tree, I always like to, while it's drying, I like to press it around my finger. That just helps it to have a curved shape, like a real saddle tree. Now you're going to come in with your scissors and cut slits in the felt the whole way around the saddle to make tabs. And as you can see here, you need to cut out these little squares in the corners. That way when you glue the tabs down, it'll all fit together nicely. Now you're just going to glue down all the tabs. Next, you're going to take just a small scrap piece of ribbon and 2 of the jump rings, and you're going to glue one of the jump rings to one end of the ribbon. Then you're going to glue the other jump ring onto the other end of the ribbon. After you've done that, you should have a little something that looks like this. Next, you're going to add some glue to the little ribbon part of the thingy you made, and you're going to glue that to the back of your saddle tree. And it should look like this. Next step is to smear glue all over the back of your saddle tree, and once again I just start with doing the bottom part, and then you're going to glue that down onto your felt sheet. Then once again roughly cut it out and finish gluing the felt to the saddle tree. Next, you're going to cut off all the excess felt. When you're all done with that, it should look like this. And now you're going to take the end of your ribbon and thread it through one of the jump rings on one side. And add some glue and glue the ribbon together, making sure not to get any glue on the jump ring. Then you're going to cut the ribbon about 3.5–4 inches long. And of course, repeat this whole process on the other side. So now it's time to make some irons. So start by getting your wire and placing it in between your pliers. And then you're going to take your wire and bend it up over top your pliers and then pull it out. Then grab your wire cutters and cut the wire, making sure to leave a little bit stick out at the end. And then you can kind of just bend it so it looks like an iron, get it in that right shape. And then get your pliers again and bend that piece of wire sticking out the end up over the top and then press it together. Now snip off that little piece of wire sticking out the end and you have a iron. Now just repeat that process to make another one because you obviously need to. So now it's time to take one of the irons you made and thread it onto one of the pieces of ribbon you glued onto the saddle, and you're going to loop that ribbon back up through and thread it back up through the jump ring. And of course, repeat on the other side. Next step is to take a piece of felt and you're going to cut out the shape of a saddle flap, and you can kind of use that as a pattern and cut out 2 more exactly like it. And you should get 2 very similar saddle flaps, and the third one I forgot to film it, but it's very simple. You just cut it in half, and so you should have 2 of those. Now you're going to glue one of the little pieces onto one of the saddle flaps, so you just add some glue and press it together. And of course, repeat this with the other one, and when you're done, you'll have 2 completed saddle flaps. Next step is to add glue to the top of one of the saddle flaps and glue it to the back of the saddle. And yet again, repeat on the other side. Now you're going to need to cut a small piece of ribbon and glue it on top of the piece of ribbon coming out that is acting as the end of your stirrup leather. So you're just going to glue it on top of there. This is going to hold it all down, but make sure you don't get any glue on that piece of ribbon coming out, because if you do, then that ribbon won't slide and then your stirrups won't be, or your irons won't be adjustable. When you're done, it should look like this, and if any glue squeezed out, just snip it off. Once you've repeated all this on the other side, you're going to cut the end of the ribbon, that way it's not super long, and you're going to add some glue onto that end, that way there's no fraying. And of course, you're going to do that on the other side as well. And after you've done that, your saddle should be looking pretty good, like this, pretty close to done. But we just still have to add the buckles onto the back of the saddle. So you're going to take 2 jump rings and thread them onto the end of a piece of ribbon, and you're going to bend that ribbon up over and you're going to glue it down, but make sure you don't get any glue onto the jump rings because you want the jump rings to be loose and still be able to move. After you've glued it, it should look like this, and you're going to cut it about 1 inch, 1.25 inches long. And of course, repeat because you'll need to. Now add glue to the back of one of the little pieces we just made and glue that to the back of one of the saddle flaps and just press it together to get a good stick with the glue. And I know I've said this a million times, but repeat on the other side. Now add some glue in between the 2 little pieces of ribbon we just glued down, and you're going to glue a piece of ribbon right there. And I like to do this because it kind of just connects everything and makes the saddle stronger. So this is the finished, completed saddle, but we still have to make a girth and saddle pad. To make the girth, cut a strip of white felt. I like to use white because it makes it look like one of them fluffy white girths that you see in real life. So that's why I use white. But you're just going to cut a strip of felt, and you're going to apply a line of glue down the center, and I do half at a time because it's easier. And then you're just going to take your ribbon and stick it down. Once you have glued down both sides, you're going to add glue to both ends of the ribbon on the girth, that way there's no fraying. And I press the glue together with my fingers. It does burn a little bit, but it makes it look nice. Then you're just going to trim off the extra. So that's it for the girth. Now we're going to make the saddle pad. So get the saddle you just made and place it on the felt that you want to make your saddle pad out of, and get your marker back out and very gently dot a very faint line on the felt of the shape of your saddle, and then just cut it out. And that is a super simple saddle pad. So one more thing I know I'm going to get questions on is how do you attach the girth to the saddle? So it's very easy. Just take the end of the girth and thread it through the 2 jump rings on the saddle, and then bring it back through the second jump ring and just pull it down, and that is it. Alright, so that is how I make English saddles for my Schleich horses. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye!